through Zoom. Thank you very much for joining us, everyone. During the meeting, if you do wish to speak, just a quick introduction. I'm Dan Sorek. I'm the chair of the Board of Appeals, and I'm telecommuting in from Holland, Michigan on this. I am going to ask everybody to use. There's a reactions button down at the bottom. I'm going to give you a quick example where you can raise your hand, let me know when you want to speak, and then I'll call upon you. And then again, I would like you to state your name, where you're calling in from, and the nature of your business real quick. So I'll take, and then of course, when you're done, please lower your hand. So good evening. And then board members are regular citizens of Holland who have volunteered and have been appointed by City Council to consider applications to the Zoning Board of Appeals, Housing Board of Appeals, Construction Board of Appeals, and for accommodations for persons with disabilities. This board must interpret each application as it relates to city ordinances. This board is not empowered to rezone or to take any action that could be considered rezoning. The agenda is in the order that the applications were received by the city. The presence of 4 board members is required for a quorum. It also takes 4 concurring votes to approve applications. When your application is called, we're going to ask that you, again, raise your hand and state your name and where you're calling in from. We'll hear the applicant first, and then anyone supporting the application, followed by anyone opposing it. After the public hearing is closed, there will be no other opportunity for further comment. And I want to reiterate that. After the public hearing is closed, there will be no further opportunity for public comment related to that application. Decisions of the board are final and are effective on the day of such decision. However, applicants may appeal decisions to circuit court in accordance with state law. If you elect not to stay for our deliberation and decision, you may call the Community and Neighborhood Services Department after 8:30 tomorrow morning to learn the results. Meetings are being streamed live and are recorded. And I will ask now the clerk to take roll call for attendance for our board members.
Perfect. All right, we'll start with Sorek.
Dan Sorek, calling in from Holland, Michigan.
Perfect. Van Antwerp.
I'm Fred Van Antwerp, calling in from Holland, Michigan, and via teleconferencing.
Vaisaki.
I'm Mark Vaisaki. I'm calling in from Holland, Michigan.
Fusick.
Board member.
I'm Brad Fusak, calling in from Holland, Michigan.
Perfect. Davis.
I'm Matt Davis. I'm attending via teleconference, and I'm in Holland, Michigan.
And Shea.
Devin Shea, calling from Holland, Michigan.
That is everyone.
And then we also do have staff, if they could introduce themselves. And I'm going to start with Mr. Myron Trethewey, who is also our council liaison.
I've been moved to staff.
Well, sorry.
Okay. Mike Trethewey, teleconferencing from Holland, Michigan, council liaison, non-voting member of this board.
Dan?
Dan Tiley, building official, zoning administrator, City of Holland.
All right, Tricia?
Tricia Dreyer, Assistant Director of Community and Neighborhood Services, staff to the Board of Appeals, calling from Holland, Michigan.
And Mallory?
Mallory Heisinger. I'm the Department Assistant with Community and Neighborhood Services and the clerk for the Board of Appeals.
And Vince?
Hi, Vince Duckworth, calling in from Holland, Michigan, Deputy City Attorney for the City of Holland.
All right, again, thank you for joining us. All right, and with that, I will ask the clerk to read our first application for consideration.
So this is for 960 East 10th Street, application number 20.26Z, Terry DeYoung and Cindy Valdir DeYoung are requesting a variance or special exception to provide reasonable accommodation to build a handicapped accessible porch at their property, located at 960 East 10th Street. The porch will be 26 feet from their front property line, where a 30-foot setback is required. The Zoning Board of Appeals may approve this request if certain conditions are found to exist. 39-185A, 39-214B, and 39-17.4.
Okay, thank you. Is my understanding that we're not in need of discussing the dimensional variance, but we will be discussing and considering the special exception for this. I also, when we get to it, when we get to the public hearing, when I open that, I do want to make note that there has been a few letters that have been received on behalf of this applicant. And I'm going to ask a reminder, please, when like bring you up, or we ask you to, when you speak on behalf, please state your name clearly. Please read slowly or speak slowly so that we're understood. And I'm going to ask now for our applicant, if they're available, to please explain the application.
Hi, I'm Terry DeYoung, and you're going to continue sharing your screen, or do you want to see me, or just question about how to proceed?
Yep, I can do either one. So we can turn it off while you're speaking, and then Terry, if there's anything in particular you want me to show, just let me know.
All right, thank you, Tricia. Yeah, you may just look at me if people want, or block my screen. I'm Terry DeYoung, calling in from Holland, Michigan, from the residents in question. And as far as I know, I will be speaking tonight on behalf of my wife, Cindy, who's also on the call, joining on another device. And want to begin by saying thank you to the city staff, to Tricia and to Dan for their help in navigating all of the stops and starts in this process, and to Nick Rolinski and Haryi Khan, who've made the design concepts so attractive, in our opinion at least. And in light of the agenda tonight, I want to respect your time, your advanced study of the document, so I'll try to make my remarks brief. But I'm also new to your process and trust that you'll ask me questions about the application, about our intentions, about my disability, whatever you need to know to make an informed decision. We submitted 2 forms, an application for an accommodation as an individual with a disability, which is me, and another one under the non-use variance. We weren't sure which would serve the board best or be most appropriate, so we did both at Tricia's recommendation. And these took some time to complete, but actually were a good exercise for us to help us articulate this request. My wife Cindy and I have lived on the corner of 10th Street and Glendale Avenue in Holland Heights for 26 years, and our hope is to stay here for many more years to come. We all know people or family members who have limited mobility, whether that's by birth, which is, as is my case, or by injury, or by illness, or by aging. Cindy and I have long wished that our home was more visitable and accessible to our friends with such disabilities, so that they could visit us without needing to navigate 3 steps to enter the main floor of our ranch-style home. And some of those friends haven't been here for years as a result of those 3 steps. And I've long been an advocate for more housing, especially here in the city of Holland, that's affordable, that's accessible. I've had a long history with Disability Network Lakeshore, a nonprofit, a center for independent living based here in Holland that serves Ottawa and Allegan counties. And now I'm 64. I am faced with the likelihood that I will be a wheelchair user someday, so my doctors tell me. And there is a growing sense of urgency to make our home more accessible so that we can remain here, so we can remain in Holland, so that we can also age in place. And we love where we live. We want to remain connected to neighbors and friends that we've established living here over the last 26 years. And the essence of our request, in my mind, is this. We want to add an open style front porch that also includes a ramp so that we can access, this ramp would help me or anyone access both the porch and the front door of our home. And because we live in Michigan, where it snows most winters, we want a ramp that's protected from the elements. But my understanding under the current R1 building envelope with a 30-foot setback, we can do one or the other. We can do the ramp or we can do the porch, but we cannot do both. The Fair Housing Act defines a reasonable accommodation as a change that enables a person with a disability an equal opportunity to use and enjoy a dwelling. And I believe that providing a reasonable accommodation is consistent with the Fair Housing Act, with the Americans with Disabilities Act, and it's consistent with Holland's own Fair Housing and Non-Discrimination Ordinance that was adopted last year. And there's a lot more I could say, and I'm very willing to elaborate on either of these two applications to this board, but I think I'm going to stop here if it's okay and ask what questions you need answered in order to make an informed decision.
Okay, thank you very much, Terry. And I see Fred, you've got your hand up, one of our board members. I believe he's got some questions.
Thank you, Dan. Mr. DeYoung, I have a couple of questions for you. Could you please describe your handicap and how it interferes with your ability to get access to your house and to use your house?
Yeah. My disability is, I'm told, a rare congenital condition. An estimated 200 cases in the world, according to Mayo Clinic back in the 70s. The name of it is spondyloepiphyseal dysplasia. The only other person I know who has it is my younger brother, Kent, who I think is on this call. It's a condition that affects all of the joints in my body, limits their mobility, and affects the growth of my bones. It's part of the dwarfism family. I was on crutches through all of my middle school and high school years and into college. Had 2 hip replacements done 8 days apart in 1975 at the Mayo Clinic. And that allowed me then to walk without use of crutches. Both joints have been revised twice. I've also had 2 artificial knees. And those were put in 2014 and 16. 2014 because I tripped in my yard over a garden hose one afternoon and broke my right humerus, which is a very inconvenient injury. So doctors have said that as I age, my bones become more brittle, that a fall could be catastrophic, and have said this is not going to get better, it's going to get worse.
Okay,
so,
well, thank you very much. Listen, I didn't want to make that sound like it was a rude question.
No,
but
it wasn't. I appreciate it.
We understand that there is a handicapped person in the house, and so it's important for us to know that. So that's why I was asking. I did not see a drawing or a proposed drawing of this porch. Is there a drawing available of the porch that's being proposed?
Yeah, I think it was at the very end of the agenda. I could either share my screen or maybe Tricia prefers to share hers, but Tricia, what would you prefer?
Looks like we have it up on screen now.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so Terry, does this look, it looks like here's the garage and then here is the porch addition.
Yeah, so the ramp is flush against the house. It's in the back of the porch.
Mhm.
And the remainder of the porch, so if you look at where Tricia's pointing now, that's the top-down view.
Okay.
So the ramp, as it's drawn there, is just barely wide enough for a wheelchair. We would like it to be more ADA best practice width. And you can see the turning radius of that wheelchair on the porch
Yeah.
is barely sufficient to turn around. So the
Okay.
variance would go those 4 extra feet in the shaded or lined area.
Okay. Yeah, that was my next question. Now I can see. I was going to ask you, is this the minimum accommodation that you can ask for? But it's based upon the turning radius of the wheelchair. So that's
Yeah.
why it's drawn the way it is, and that's why it looks that way.
Yeah.
I
So
understand that.
yeah. So the ramp preferably needs to be wider, especially anticipating a bigger wheelchair possibly coming up. So that's really barely sufficient. We'd like it to be a little bit more generous. And then the porch also to be accessible to a person with a disability without worrying about falling off the edge of it, because it's going to be an open style porch. So it's not going to have railings, that kind of thing.
Uh-huh. Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. Those are my questions, and I'm ready to make a motion after the other board members had a chance to ask questions.
Thank you.
We do have to go through our public hearing also.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Any other board members have any questions for the applicant? Okay, not seeing any. I will move to open the public hearing and ask anybody who wishes to speak in support of this application. They can now choose to speak in support.
And now might be a good time for Mallory to list all of the letters and addresses that we got in support of this application.
While Mallory does that, if anybody does want to speak in support, they can raise their hand. I'll call on them after Mallory reads the list.
Perfect. So we received 6 email letters in support of the application. So Rob and Jan Dannenberg at 259 Glendale, Jordan and Rachel Starkenberg at 225 Glendale, Chad Vanderhulst at 209 Glendale, Leslie Vanderhulst also at 209 Glendale, Andrea and Todd Nito at 216 Glendale, and Ted and Stephanie Sapani at 252 Glendale.
Okay, thank you. And I do see somebody raising a hand down there. Go ahead. I see a name, Stephanie.
Yep, my name is Stephanie Sapana. I am representing 252 Glendale. I look at Terry and Cindy's garage from my house, and I am in full support of their accessible entrance. And we hope that Terry and Cindy can stay in the neighborhood for as long as possible.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else? I see a hand raised. Francie, you're on mute.
There. Yes, you can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Good,
Yes.
good. Sorry, I'm not very good with computers. I totally apologize, but here I am.
And please state your name.
Yes, Francie Allen, and I'm also a citizen from Holland. That's it? That's all I have to say? Okay. I have never met Mr. Terry, but just listening to what he's saying, and I can see why they want to stay living where they're at, because Holland happens to be a pretty blessed community. And I think it's thanks to people that are doing their work. I don't tend to just give compliments for nothing. The city reflects there's people that care like you guys. I can see where it's pretty cool that he's thinking ahead rather than waiting till it's really, really, really bad, and that he's thinking of other people, as this time of COVID has created more space to make sure we appreciate one another in the community. So I don't have anything negative other than I have never met him, and I thought that was just cool to be proactive, as he might be needing it, but then he can stay connected with community people that often, I personally have that situation where we have acquaintances that have injuries, and, you gotta accommodate when they come, But anyways, I just wanted to say that.
Thank you very much. Okay, anybody else? I'll ask anybody who wishes to speak in opposition. And I have to cycle through all the pictures. I'm not seeing anybody in opposition. So at this point in time, I will, any other questions from the board? And I'll close the hearing and I will look for a motion.
I would like to make a motion, even though my hand is not raised.
I was looking to you anyways, Fred. Thank you.
Okay, I would move that we approve the request for a special exception to provide reasonable accommodation.
I second that.
All right.
We have a motion by Fred and a second by Mark. Any further discussion?
I have reasons for my motion.
Go ahead.
Okay. The accommodation being requested is for an individual with a disability that's protected under the fair housing laws. The accommodation is necessary to make the housing available for this individual. The accommodation does not impose an undue financial or administrative burden on the city. The request does not require a fundamental alteration in the nature of the city's zoning program. And there are no alternative accommodations which can provide for an equivalent level of benefit to the applicant.
Thank you, Fred. Any other additional factors or anything else to discuss on this? I'm not seeing any at this point in time. I believe we are ready for a vote.
All right, so the motion is to approve. Van Antwerp,
Yes.
Wysocki,
Yes.
Fusick,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Shea, and Sorick.
Yes.
All right, motion to approve passes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
You bet. All right, and we'll move on to our next item on the agenda. Go ahead, Mallory.
All right, so the next item is for 100 West 20th Street, application number 20.27Z. Francie Allen is requesting a variance to install a 5-foot tall solid fence at her property located at 100 West 20th Street. The fence will be 3 feet from the property line where 5 feet is required. The Zoning Board of Appeals may approve this request if certain conditions are found to exist. 39-11.
Okay, thank you, Mallory. And I believe we have our applicant here, Francie. If you would like to explain your application, go ahead, please. Again, I apologize. I know you spoke earlier, but please state your name again.
Yeah, Francie Allen. And I know in America we don't use accents, so that's why often I've been called Francie, but hey, as long as it's close enough, I respond. And yes, I am a citizen of Holland, and I've been a citizen for since 1989. And anyhow, I can say, if I can say a little history here, I am not from this country originally, so there is some things I'm not very well trained. So this is my first meeting like this. So yes, I guess I've been learning through Trish and some of the members I've been talking to of things that go on the office to make the city work. But anyhow, during the thing that everybody's experiencing in 2020 with COVID, the shutdown, I happen to have 6 teenagers, mixed young adult children, and my husband and I. And idleness is not good for no one. And we have not really been taking as much care and everything we wanted in our house for years. So we used the shutdown time to do some exterior repairs. Full disclosure, totally ignorant that there are some things you have to ask for permission, this and that. We actually have the permit, maybe I didn't word it properly. The permit is for our current fence. It is our fence. that came with the house. And if I may share a little bit my screen in a minute, but first let me say this comment. So I guess what I did is we look at our family, made a goal to repair rotten woods and dry woods, broken things. And along the way, we find out after the fact that we're supposed to get a permit for that. So I apologized profusely, and then Trish said, send the application. Then I sent the application, and we live in a corner lot with 8 young adults.
I'm sorry, it looks like Francie has frozen, or am I frozen and everybody else is?
Well, we can hear you.
Okay.
We may have lost Mr. Young.
Yeah. All right, with her.
I'm wondering if she doesn't come back in a minute, maybe we should just move ahead to the next application and then come back. Oh, now she's gone. So maybe we move to the next application and then come back to her when she's able to rejoin the meeting.
Okay, I'm willing to go through, move forward to the next item on the agenda. And we can, I don't think we need to make a formal motion to table it or anything with the digital world here. So we'll just, without taking action on 100 West 20th, let's move forward to the next item on our agenda. We will come back to that when Francie can rejoin us. Go ahead, Mallory.
All right, so the next application is for 472 Homestead Avenue, application number 20.20.
Mallory, hold on. It looks like Francie has rejoined us.
Uh-oh.
But she's muted. She's muted.
There. I don't know what happened. It looks like he dropped me, and then he's just reconnecting. So I guess I'm not so sure where I lost you guys.
You were explaining the repairs that you had made to the fence.
Okay, and then if one of the things that we took in account, if I may, Tricia, if you can help me share the screen, please, because a picture speaks 1,000 words. And the process after we put the application in and did the kind of move the fence 1 foot, but then that would have made it where we would have need to purchase more than we were really. Can you share the screen to me though? I have a picture I want to share from.
Oh.
Okay, please.
Yeah.
I don't know, please. And then it's in the background here. I think.
You want me to update that quick as I can?
Yeah, Mallory, if you could, that would be great. I don't know where that setting is.
And I'm totally bad at computers, so I can't help you. I got my team here trying to help me. But one thing that we did take into account while Mallory's working on that was that our road was getting fixed beautifully. So we thought, hey, let's fix our home too with our teenagers' free labor. And then at the same time, we look at the neighborhood, because one of the questions that I saw in the application is, as your house fitting in the character of the neighborhood, and not being an expert in anything like this, I wanted to be able to do that, to look at the neighborhood. And how do I do that? Share the screen?
Yep, so there should be a green button near the bottom of your screen that says share screen. That should have just appeared.
Okay, do I click on that?
Yep, and then a bunch of windows may pop up. You're gonna wanna select the one that shows the picture that you wanna share with everyone.
Okay, I think it's that of it. Do I double click?
And then you have to hit share. There you go.
Okay.
There it is.
It worked. Okay. And then how do I move this so I can? You guys are in the side there. All right. So what I did, to give you an idea, this is me today. I went out and show you how I am looking in the fence, and you guys haven't met me in person. I'm a 5 feet, 5.5 feet, something like that, tall person. But I used one of my sons and his way to work. I said, hey, can you stand over here? Because you're kind of more like the average people height kind of. And that is just to give you kind of an idea what the character of the house looks like now that well, now it's not rotten because we replaced the boards and power washed it and stained it. And but I wanted to share the, why is it not moving to the other one? Oh, there. Oops. That's one. And then just real quick. So what I did is I also did my son in the inside of the fence just to try to keep the consistency. I went to my neighbors, took pictures there. As you can see, my neighbor's neighborhood, I will consider more their fence is solid. Mine has the see-through on the top, but I wanted to do a picture so it shows that we kind of intentionally went and look at our neighborhood as a whole. And then I did not do signatures, but I did collected neighbors' comments, and I could do signatures, but I didn't know if I needed to or not. And for me, it was, as a mother, it was really encouraging to see that while we were working some days long hours on the fence with the kids, the people will stop and just compliment the kids about, I call them kids, but I mean, you can look in the picture, they're older, but my 17-year-old, my youngest ones are 14-year-old, and they were helping work, and the neighbors were quite encouraging and how it was looking nice. And, there was some that will say, it's just looking, too much in construction. The thing that helped us a little was that the front of our road was under construction too. So maybe that absorbed some of the process, but anyhow, so that's kind of where, instead of moving it to 1 foot, like the original permit was, we just moved it, and it's installed, like you can see, it's about 3 feet, a few inches. And it does, again, I'm just rookie at this permit thing. So we're hoping that the pictures can reflect that the fitting in the neighborhood it's there, and that we didn't end up putting it 1 foot by the sidewalk. And then it also has the see-through that you can see in the top. And again, I just wanted to use a comparison so it looks that I took in account our neighborhood, because like Mr. Terry said, we actually been living here a long time too, and we like it here. It's just our family got bigger. And so anyways, I don't know what else to say other than I hope that you consider that I really believe it's not just me. I'm sharing the opinion of my neighbors that were walking by, that it was looking quite nice. It was making the corner appeal in our area nicer in my corner, because we were taking time to repair those broken things. I should have shown you a picture of before. I didn't think of it. I just did this today because I didn't know how to use this very well. Like I said, one of my high schoolers had to help me put it together. But anyways, I don't know, I guess if you have any questions, you can also see our backyard. We have the chairs. It's not like we have a lot of backyard. So those couple feet gave us a space to have some privacy, because unfortunately we're also in a corner lot. So I did not know that corner lots, the fence has different rulings too. So I guess I don't know what else to say unless you have questions.
Thank you for showing your pictures. We really appreciate it. And at this point in time, I will ask our board if they have questions of France. Go ahead, Matt.
So I was curious to know, the fence does look pretty good, by the way. I like that black paint side. That looks really nice. I was curious to know, you had the fence in place before, and then you decided that instead of, did you replace the fence and decide to move it?
Oh, yeah, so sorry, I wasn't clear. What happens is we had the fence, we repair it, and as we repair it, we had this genius idea to like, oh, if we move it this way, we will have the space here, because we have a swing chair that we always kind of have to move around. And anyhow, the squirrels did a good job in the seating, so now we're actually reupholstering that. But anyways, so we are like, we did not know that we're supposed to get a permit to repair the fence or to move it. So that's kind of how the whole incident happened when I first met Trish and requested the permit, and then put this appeal request because of, I guess, my timing and my neighborhood's timings that did their fence was differently. But that's what happened. So it's the same fence. We're trying to save by not have to spend money making another fence or tear this one recycle the wood on this one and the amount of labor, and then COVID was lifted. The lockdown was lifted. So like some of my young adults and teens went back to school and work and kind of thing. But yes, to answer your question, all that happened totally under ignorance. And then when I put the permit in, we did it at 1 foot, and and then we're like, no, this fence doesn't qualify. At 1 foot is gonna look funnier. So we moved it, and there's the original, what do you call it, cement on the post from the previous owner. So we did, it's like, you know what, if we move it this way, it's the best of both worlds. It still fits the character of the neighborhood. Again, I'm just sharing you how we got to this opinion and how we got into putting this application, feeling like it still will fit in the neighborhood. And I do love the dark. It's a real dark espresso color. My husband calls it black, but I just really thought he just uplifted the many years of bad shaped fence. But the thing that helped us a bunch is a cedar fence. And I was advised to continue repair it with cedar, because cedar, although it had rotten the places that were closer to the ground. If you notice, we live in a higher ground than the sidewalk, and the fence was touching the dirt too much, and they said that's why it rotten. But if it would have been different wood than cedar, it would have rotten a lot worse. So we just did the repairs with cedar. Expensive, but repairs is better than buying a whole new fence. So, but yeah,
Sure.
Hopefully that answered your question.
Thank you.
Yeah, I had a similar sort of experience in regards to what you did looking around the neighborhood. When my wife and I moved in a few years ago, we decided to put up a fence, and we noticed that there were some houses down the street that had high fences like we wanted to, but they came very close to the sidewalk. And so that's what we had intended to do. And then I was informed by the city that we couldn't do that because the special circumstance that made the difference was when our neighbors built that fence, it was within code at the time. And so even if it would look similar to what our neighbors had done, we couldn't build a fence in the same way that they had and still be within the city ordinance. So that was really frustrating, because I wanted more space, in my fenced in yard, but we had to do it that way. And it was really annoying. But that was just how it was. So I feel you with the frustration of looking around and seeing your neighbors, having done things differently and not being able to do the same.
Well, part of it is my ignorance too, that I did not know, but I went down to one of the pictures on my sheet that I'm sharing. That neighbor repaired their fence just recently. It's not 50 years ago. I'm not going by the across the street neighbors, but it's on the right side, on my right side. And this is what inspired me to be able to present a case to you guys, because the ordinance, I don't know how it was approved, but then I was told to at least give it a shot, because in his case, their fence is solid, 6 foot tall solid, 2 feet off the edge. And I thought, I still feel that fits. I'm just looking at both ends. I have people that have been in this neighborhood for a long time before me, and they have a fence that was there when they bought the house, and I have those new neighbors on the other side, and that's where I'm giving it a shot, right? This country was founded in being able to continue to find ways that work. I know sometimes people can take it too far, and it's not my intent. You got to know that. But yes, I also understand that piece, and that's kind of where I'm trying to go to the best of my abilities to eliminate the possibility of unnecessary expending money, time and labor that can be used for other things. Anyways, yeah.
Thank you.
But yes, I hear you.
Any other board members have any more questions?
Tricia, what is the maximum height the city allows?
The city allows a 3 foot solid fence, 1 foot off of the sidewalk, or up to, if it's taller than 3 feet, 3 to 6 feet with a 5 foot setback.
Thank you.
Okay. No other questions from our board? Okay, at this point in time, thank you very much. I will open our public hearing. And if anybody else wishes to speak in support of this applicant, I ask them to go ahead and raise their hand. I'm not seeing anybody. I will now ask anybody who wishes to speak in opposition of this applicant. Looking around, I'm not seeing any there either. So any other questions from our board? I will close the public hearing now and ask for a motion to be made in regards to the fence at 100 West 20th Street.
So I would like to make a motion. I'm going to have to make a motion to deny the request for variance.
A second.
We have a motion to deny from Mr. Davis and support from Mr. Antwerp.
I need to go through the guidelines for why we have to deny this. My screen's over here, so that's why I'm not looking directly at you right now. But there's not really any unique circumstances or physical conditions present with the property that makes it so that this variance is required. The applicant did unfortunately move the fence in such a way that it became non-compliant. So they did create the need for the variance. The strict compliance with the setback does not prevent the applicant from using their backyard for their enjoyment. And the setback variance, it says minimum amount necessary, 5 feet, should not be a problem with adhering to that aspect of it. Do you think that the requested variance causes a negative impact on the neighborhood? You know, that can be opinion, but in order to abide by the variance, we would have to say yes. The city set that ordinance in such a way that it would be a benefit to the neighborhood. In my position, I don't get to question that decision, but that is in a way sort of implied by the city having that ordinance set up the way it is. So with those reasons, I'd say we have to deny.
Any further discussion from any of our board members?
Since I seconded the motion, I would just like to make a comment to Ms. Allen that we get many requests for fence variances on the board, and people have lots of different circumstances that they're living under, but it's really important that we remain consistent with the rules with all of those applicants, and that there needs to be a very special situation that we would approve going against what the ordinance is in the city. And I don't think that we have done that in quite a while. So I just wanted to explain there's nothing personal. It's just the way that we have to operate our business here, that we have to abide by the rules of the city. So that's just an explanation.
Yeah, for me, without knowing what is special, the one particular neighbor that was the most recent one that put the solid 6-foot tall fence, I have not went to talk to them because they did the same thing that I'm doing, but they got approved. So I will not know what
Ms.
they
Allen.
did that is special. What I'm saying is I don't know what else I could have done.
Ms. Allen, we've had opportunities to speak. We do need to move forward. We do have a lengthy agenda. It is not we do have to take each case individually on this one. All right, at this point in time, I believe we do need to make a vote on this.
All right. The motion is to deny. Davis,
Yes.
Van Antwerp,
Yes.
Fusick,
Yes.
Vaisaki,
Yes.
Shay,
Yes.
and Zoric.
Yes.
Motion to deny passes.
Okay. And we'll move on to 472 Homestead Avenue. Go ahead and read this one. Thank you.
Yeah, application number 20.29Z. Desi Vidales is requesting a variance to install a paved parking area in the front yard of her property at 472 Homestead Avenue. The paved area will be between the building and the road with no setback, where a 25-foot setback is required. The Zoning Board of Appeals may approve this request if certain conditions are found to exist. 39-58.
Okay, and once again, I believe we do have the applicant here that could explain their application. I believe you're muted, so if you would, again, please go ahead and unmute yourself, and then there you go.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
Go ahead and state your name and
Okay, my name is Daisy Vidal, and I'm trying to, okay, I want the cement because I have 5 apartment units with full tenants. Right now, some of them are not paying rent. So I want the concrete because when the tenants get their mail, it gets very muddy and a lot of dirt goes around there. And when it rains, it makes a lot of holes. It's very slippery and muddy on the street. I think I also sent Tricia a video of the water when it rains and some pictures. I also, yeah, I think it's that's why we want the concrete. It's already in there, but yeah, that's my situation. Hello?
okay. Yep, thank you very much for explaining it. At this time, if there's any questions from the board. Fred, go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to ask you, how many parking places are there on your property for the 5 units?
I do have about 10.
About 10? Uh-huh. And does that include this part of the house? The part that's
Yes.
close to the street?
Yes. When I purchased the apartment building, those apartments already were being used as parking spaces.
How many do you have without those parking places? At the front?
About 6.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Are there unique circumstances or physical conditions except for the water puddle that you have issue with?
Yeah, I think it's very dangerous. Maybe Tricia can show you guys the video and the pictures. Yeah, it was a little slippery, dangerous for the tenants, and at this time, I think they are just one excuse not to pay the rent. So I think we only made it for their safety.
Do you realize that the city has a 25-foot setback requirement?
No, sorry, that's why I didn't know.
Okay.
So if I can chime in real quick, this is Tricia.
Go ahead, Tricia.
Daisy did submit pictures. I attached them to the application. So those are the photos that are at the tail end of the paperwork that she submitted. So Daisy, all of the board members did get the photos.
Yes, we saw them.
And it looks like when the property was originally developed, when that apartment building was built, it appears that the property at the back of the property was paved for parking. but the place where they're having the water trouble is out by the street. It's not in the previously established parking area.
But when I purchased the property, those spaces were already being used. Yeah, for parking lot.
Sure, and to clarify, there is on-street parking allowed. There is no city curb and gutter in that area. So folks are allowed to park on the edge of the road there and off the edge of the road onto the gravel shoulder. Parking directly between the building and the street would have been a violation. And those violations are handled by the police department, not our department. So we don't have a record of any previous violations issued for that particular issue.
Has anyone from the city, like a city engineer, spoken with the Ms. Velitas regarding the puddling water?
Not to oh, sorry, not to my knowledge. We don't have any record.
Okay.
Ms. Vidals, did you speak with anybody from the engineering department about the puddles on Homestead Avenue?
No.
No? Okay. Are there any other questions from our board members?
Yeah, I was curious. Daisy, you said there are 6 or 7 spots in the rear of the lot, and then Tricia just pointed out that there is on-street parking allowed in that zone. And you'd also mentioned that when you purchased the property, people were already using that area as parking. So I guess I'm curious to know, did you ever ask those tenants, instead of parking in that zone, to park elsewhere, to park on the street, or did they give you a bit of pushback where they have been parking there for a long time and never had any problems, and so you being a good landlord thought that paving over this would make sense, as opposed to just telling them, hey, go park on the street if the back lot is full? Is that kind of how it went, or can you kind of give a little bit more detail?
No. The tenants, they were already been parking in there, and there is no space. That's the corner, and there is no space for them to park on the street.
Okay, so parking on the street there's so many cars for your tenants and neighbors on the street that it fills up that section of the street then? Is that what's going on?
No. There is no space. It's a corner, and I think there is traffic, so there is no space. I think that's why they are parking. They are parking inside in the place that I took the concrete.
Any other questions from our board? Okay, I'd like to thank our applicant at this time, and I would like to move to open our public hearing. Is there anybody who would like to speak in support of this applicant? I'm not seeing anybody in moving that direction. I will now ask if there's anybody who wishes to speak in opposition to this application. I'm not seeing anybody. Any other questions from our board?
No.
Then I will move to close the public hearing and seek a motion from one of our board members.
I would like to make a motion that we unfortunately have to deny this request.
I second.
We have a motion by Mark and a second by Fred. Mark, do you have some proofs you'd like to review?
Yeah. As a result of the question number 1 and number 3, which unfortunately we had to deny it, I believe we should deny it. Those two questions are the unique circumstances or physical conditions of the property that prevent us from using the property the way it is. I would say no. And the third question there, will strict compliance with the 25-foot setback prevent the applicant from using the property as apartments? And that question is no as well. So for those reasons, and due to the fact that we have ample parking out there on the street, and they have room for 10 parking spaces on their property, I think we should deny this request tonight.
Just a correction on that, Mark. I think that she said that she has 6 or 7 on site, and those 3 illegal ones added to 10.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mhm.
I thought I remember hearing 10, so.
Yeah.
Can I also make the request that we have the city engineer go out and make some recommendations for the owner on how to alleviate the puddle?
Yep, I already wrote myself a note.
Great.
Okay, but that's not part of the motion. That's just a special ask.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's not a condition of the motion.
Not a
No.
condition, no.
Okay. All right. Any further discussion from our board? Not seeing any. I'll ask for a vote.
All right, the motion is to deny the application by Saki,
Yes.
Van Antwerp,
Yes.
Music,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Shay,
Yes.
and Sorick.
Yes.
Motion to deny passes.
Okay. Thank you. We're now moving on to I believe our 4th item on the agenda at 115 Birchwood.
So this application is for 115 Birchwood Avenue, application number 20.30Z. Walter and Elizabeth Rosales are requesting a variance to install a turnaround and second driveway at their property located at 115 Birchwood Avenue. The turnaround and new driveway will be placed between the house and the road with no setback, where a 20-foot 5 setback is required. The Zoning Board of Appeals may approve this request if certain conditions are found to exist. 39-58.
Okay, thank you. And do we have somebody here representing the applicant that wishes to explain the application?
I believe you're looking for me.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hey. So, yeah, we're the contractor that poured we're the contractor that poured the turnaround in the area, and we filed a permit, and we got approval from the city of Holland, and so we continued with the work and poured the driveway, and then we had the city come by while we were working, and they looked at everything, and there wasn't any issues. And then after construction was completed, then we got a notice from them that it was in the zoning area of the property. So yeah.
Okay, could you state your name and relationship, I guess? You said you're the contractor?
Yeah, Dakota Juarez.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there somebody from the applicant here present?
Elizabeth.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from our board to the applicant or their contractor?
If it's helpful, I can provide a little bit of clarification as to the city permit
Yes, please.
Dakota
Please.
just talked about. So the city did issue a working in the right-of-way permit for this project to replace the existing driveway with the original footprint. And then when they sent their Raj, I went out to check on it. and noted that that was not the work that was actually completed. And that's when we sent the notification letters for the violation. So yes, he did have a permit, but it was to repair the existing approach with the original footprint that was there previously.
Thank you, Tricia. That's helpful.
Do we have like a copy of that permit to show at the moment?
Yeah, I didn't upload it to my phone, but would it be okay if I just kind of held it up to here? I don't know if you guys could see it.
It's a permit that would have been issued from the transportation department for the public right of way, so our office doesn't hold copies of those.
Yeah, it's this right in front of me on my screen.
Okay, it looks like replace approach as is and repair city right away.
Yeah, let me hold it up again.
Yeah, I'm trying to read it, and it looks like for the purposes of replace approach as is and repair city, is that SW sidewalk maybe? I don't believe there's sidewalk in that area though.
No, there wasn't any sidewalk.
Okay.
So it looks like the permit was not a permit to do the turnaround, but the permit was to repair the driveway.
Yeah, we were definitely not aware that that permit wouldn't cover the driveway, as isn't part of the turnaround like the first maybe 15 feet or so in the right of way. So I don't know if it would cover that because the right of way should be like 33 feet from the center line of the road. So wouldn't that cover part of the turnaround too?
So it's my understanding the permit that was issued was only for the existing driveway. It was not to add new pavement to a new location because the city has a separation distance between driveways on the same property. And this would not have met the ordinance requirements.
Can we ask what the initial purpose of this turnaround was? Like what motivated it?
For them, do you want me to answer it?
No, go ahead.
I was just asking what the initial motivation for putting this extra driveway in might have been.
Oh, for them, it was to allow more parking and ease to get it out of the driveway, and for hosting gatherings, and so people don't have to park in the street.
Okay.
If I may, when you mentioned, Dakota, that you had the city was out there, was that like a formal visit, or was someone just passing by and gave you the thumbs up? What can you give us more on that situation?
Yeah, it was just a guy from the city. It was Ron.
Lupton. I do have his name. Brock Lupton.
Yeah.
School department lead supervisor.
Yeah, he came by and we talked to him for a little bit, and we were in the process of doing the whole project and talked to him and told him what we were doing, and there was no issues or anything. And I seen the city drive by several times, and I mean, I didn't see any issues with what we were doing, but yeah.
Sure, I just wanted to clarify that this wasn't like a formal review. It was just that you had bumped into folks and they had given you the okay, which is a bummer to get bad information. But I think Vince had talked to us about something relevant to that.
Yeah, this is Vince with the city attorney's office. We talked about principles of estoppel, and what estoppel is, it's a legal doctrine or a theory that sort of says, hey, in fairness, equity and things considered, it's not fair to tell somebody one thing and then it ultimately, under the law, means something else, right? And but when you have municipalities and government agencies and actors that have multiple employees, hundreds of employees, the principles of estoppel cannot be used to bind the city, because one agent, one street department worker does not have the jurisdiction or authority to amend an ordinance. Only city council does. So unfortunately, other areas of law, estoppel might be relevant, but for municipality, estoppel, if somebody, even if there was evidence that somebody said, go ahead and do something, which I'm not hearing, a permit to build something or reconstruct something as is, would require it to be only as it was, to be as is. So, but principles of estoppel wouldn't apply here.
Thanks, Vince.
Any other questions from our board members?
No.
Okay. Thank you for explaining the application. And at this time, I will open our public hearing and ask anybody who's in support of this applicant if they would like to speak now. Okay. Anybody in opposition to this application? Not seeing any. Any other questions from our board? Not at this time. Okay, and then we will close the public hearing and I will seek a motion to move forward on this applicant.
I would like to make a motion to unfortunately deny this application.
I'll second.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, we have a motion by Brad and a second by Matt.
To go through our guidelines here that require us to deny this application, there are no real unique circumstances or physical conditions with this property, this city lot, that would necessitate this type of change or variance. And strict compliance with the 25-foot setback will not prevent this applicant from using their property as a home.
Excuse me? Are you asking something?
No, he's reviewing the reasons for the denial.
Stating our findings of fact.
Findings of fact, yes.
Can I say something or not anymore?
I'm sorry, not anymore.
Okay.
Not at this time.
Do we need to also add to our findings of fact that the permit that was granted did not meet the criteria for what the job performed actually was, and therefore the work that was done is sort of a self-created problem? We should not be granting a variance because the work that was done was not in compliance, and they did not get a proper permit for the work that had to be done. Not even sure if there is a permit that would have been able to do that. I think because of the variance, there wouldn't have been a permit issued at all. So the issue is that it was a self-created problem in need of a variance now, and we are not supposed to grant it in that circumstance either.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Any other discussion from our board? Okay, not seeing any. Then I will move for a vote.
Right. The motion is to deny the application. Uzak?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
Van Antwerp?
Yes.
Baisaki?
Yes.
Shea?
Yes.
Zoric?
Yes.
Motion to deny passes.
Okay. All right, we are halfway through our agenda now, and we have 1126 Harvard Drive.
Okay. So this application is for 1126 Harvard Drive application number 21.01Z Jack Rademacher is requesting a variance to build an addition to the side of his garage located at 1126 Harvard Drive. The addition will be set back 3 feet from the side property line where 7 feet is required. The Zoning Board of Appeals may approve this request if certain conditions are found to exist. 39-214C.
Okay, thank you. And I believe we do have somebody representing the applicant here. Go ahead. And again, please state your name. And it looks like you're muted still, so. You're still muted.
Hi.
There we go.
Okay,
Gotcha.
sorry. You have to maybe bear with me a little bit. This is my first Zoom. Yeah, I'm Jack Rademacher, the owner here at 1126 Harvard. I don't know if you want me to kind of go into.
Go ahead, please. Yeah, explain the intent of your application, what you're looking to do, and the circumstances.
Yeah,
I know you had asked questions with your application, and maybe that's just it's a good process to go through your application.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I'm like I said, I'm the homeowner here. I've been here about 8 years. In the city for 17. Owned a house downtown on 15th Street for a number of years before that, for 9. Yeah, and I'm a full-time single dad of 2, a 16-year-old and a 12-year-old, and I recently bought a little speedboat for us to use this coming summer, and I had a 10 by 12 foot shed in the same location as where I'm proposing to do this lean-to awning over, which will be open on all sides. It's just a means to cover this boat I bought. Just trying to, a little last ditch effort to get the kids to want to hang out with me, but it was the reason for it, and try to have some fun this coming summer. But then it kind of spiraled this whole thing. The shed, that 10 by 12 foot shed, was rotting really bad from the baseboards anyway. I wasn't about to tip over, but it wasn't far from it. And it's on a concrete slab that encompasses that whole space. Or the shed was, and now it's all open concrete. Kind of works out for a real slick spot. And if you guys look at the overview, I know Tricia had an overview, kind of a GPS image of my property, and then I sent her a few pics as well. They were more like a frontal picture of the property, just to kind of show where it would be. But it's kind of ideal for me to tuck this boat over there, but I'd really love to be able to keep it covered as well. And so, yeah, if you like you see there, it's just the way that my lot is all side and front yard. I love it here. It was good, but it was kind of it was a little bit of a bone of contention for me when I was shopping. I love the area a ton, and but the fact that it really has pretty much no backyard. There's that little patio on the back, and then just a little patch of grass there, and then you can see from where the shed was, and the overhang of the shed butted up right to the edge of that concrete, or maybe overhung a touch. But so then I had some gentlemen come and haul that shed away. So that's all open over there now, and I just really don't have anywhere else to go with any outdoor storage except for that spot. And my neighbor to the east there, Cheryl Frost, she's lived here, I think 40 some, she's lived here a long time. Her son grew up with my brother. But anyway, her and I spoke, and then my neighbors to my south, younger couple, spoke as well. I just wanted to make sure Cheryl there, she obviously would be the closest neighbor, make sure that she didn't even think, I was trying to think of everything, if rain off the roof, might be too loud in her home or something. And she said no, and she was, she was real open to going for it. And she even asked if she could use, the support posts there to, do a little vegetable garden and keep the deer out and stuff. But anyways, but yeah, so that kind of, and if you look at the other pictures from the road, so like, this is a winter shot, so it's real nice and open, but it's just not really a focal point to anyone except for Miss Frost there, obviously, in that picture. And all that's, in a real good spot. But otherwise, the focal point of my house is the west side on Timberwood, and then, the north side of my home on Harvard there. But the setback of this overhang will be kind of out of sight, out of mind, really, to anybody. But it's not like, but I also, wanted to mention that as well, that there's already existing 4-inch slab concrete there. So there's not really much else used for it, I guess, but that's not really an argument to why. The argument to why is just the way that my house sits so deep south and east in my lot. I can't really, do it anywhere else. I guess the west side of the house, I don't want to put the boatway over there. That'd be, that's all my landscape and stuff. So, but yeah, and then, I just wanted to touch on, that I plan on a really nice fascia, painted nice to match the posts, to match my siding, the fascia, to the overhang, to the roof line to match my garage door. It's really going to look nice when it's done. And I just really need an option to cover this boat I got for me and the fam. So I guess that's kind of about all I've got to let you guys know if there's any other questions on it. Just that too, that I set the post is absolutely, I mean, they're right on the edge of that concrete, which was right where the old shed was right to the edge of the concrete as well. And I understand that a shed is a freestanding building and has other building code regulations that it meets. And because I'm coming off a ledger board on the side of my home, that I have the 7-foot setback, which has me here tonight, trying to get a variance of 4 of that and go 3 feet off the lot line. It's as close as I could go to the concrete slab for the footings, for the support. So yeah, I'm just really hoping that shakes out so I can cover my investment. That's all.
Thank you, Jack. I appreciate you explaining it. Any questions from our board at this time? Go ahead, Mark.
How wide is your boat and trailer?
The boat is 9 feet wide and the trailer is 26 feet long. That's a great question. I've to have the width that I need to go to the edge of that slab it's suffice, but I just can't be really hard for me to come in any further with the fact that I got to wiggle it back there and the boat's 9 feet wide on the beam. It's a 23-foot boat, but the trailer tongue puts me at 26.
Trish, I trust that's you putting that up. Thank you, because I keep tipping my head sideways on my other screen over here.
Thank you.
Any other questions from our board?
So am I reading that right, that the concrete, if it abuts the house, is 14.5 feet wide?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the width of the boat is 9. So I'm just, what I'm wondering is can we squeeze it in any more to meet this 7-foot setback? And
yeah,
I know it's tight, and trying to navigate it back there would be a challenge.
Yeah, the way that my driveway sets, it'd be quite the wiggle, and 4 feet at 10.8, would only leave me, 6 inches on either side of the boat and the other problem is with a pitch. So my dad's an engineer, and he said for the pitch I need in order for, to have the right pitch for snow load and that sort of thing, I have to go 7 feet there on the side. And that's with the windshield of the boat and all. It's going to clear, but not by a whole lot. Up on the trailer, the windshield is 7 feet, but because I'm going to be inside where I start my rise, I'm going to be high enough to come underneath. You guys know what I mean. As I start my rise toward my house, I gain. I forget. I have it written down how many inches per foot I gain with that pitch. I'm just an electrician, but my dad knows all that stuff because he drew all this up for me.
Well, I as an engineer myself, I have to give. I appreciate the hand drafting done here, because that takes me back to my early days of architectural drafting. So I appreciate the work put into that. With that view there, that I have a question real quick. That view there, are you proposing on that drawing that Tricia has shown there, the right side of the drawing would be the front towards Harvard, correct?
That's correct.
So you'd be extending this out past the front of your home?
No, sir. That's the house itself. The garage protrudes out further north to the front of that.
Okay. All right.
Pitch,
got it.
See that east and west pitch?
Yes, I see it now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it won't go any further past. It's going to be flush with the front of my garage.
Any other questions from our board?
No.
I've just got a quick one.
Go ahead, Matt.
Go ahead, Fred. I was just curious to know, Jack, have you brought your boat to this concrete slab and verified it even fits in there?
Yep, that's correct. Yep. Before I put it away for the winter at a friend in Hamilton's barn, I did make sure that we were good to go for that spot.
Okay. All right. So primarily what you want to do is you have a space for your boat, but you really want to keep the weather off of it.
Yeah,
right.
That's correct. Yeah, it's a 2013 jet boat. It's in really, really good shape. It has a cover, but I just want to keep the weather, keep the sun damage off of it. And I'm kind of a little fussy maybe about things, cars and stuff. And
sure.
I really love it. And I just would like to invest in being able to definitely, so that we can pull it out and use it and not have to, shore it all, cover it all up and do all that every time.
Would that covering it up, I'm sure, I don't own a boat, but it would be annoying, sure, but would that effectively do roughly the same thing? It's just a hassle?
No, this will be the second boat I own, and my other one was just a fishing boat, and it fit in my garage on a little angle. But yeah, you get mildew because there's no way to just keep the moisture out of a boat when it just gets pelted with rain, because it's just a traveling cover for it. I mean, shrink wrap in the winter will keep a boat dry, but you just get leaves and water and gunk and earthworms, and it just finds a way. But if I can just get a good cover over it, it makes such a world of difference.
This is just a quick question, maybe even for Dan. In that overhead picture of the property, Is it a possibility, looking at that, to add more concrete to the east side of the house there, so that you'd have room to back it in if you were to meet that 7-foot setback?
So more concrete to the east.
So right just to the left of where the garage is, in front of the poured concrete on the side of the garage. Yeah, right there. Like, could you add some concrete there? Like, I don't even know if that's allowed, Dan. Is that?
Yeah, that portion, that would be allowed. You're just asking if you could basically sweep off the driveway and into that area.
Yeah, so
that's allowed because it's not between the street and the face of the house.
Okay. So just wondering if that was added, would you be able to swing the boat in there with that very limited side clearance at the 7-foot setback instead of the variance for
3 foot?
Only 3 feet.
Well, I think I would still lose too much height on my pitch to being able to do that. I would have to demo the basketball hoop that my son practices on. Yeah, I would have to lose that. I would have to lose that east side pitch. I'm not an engineer and maybe a touch nervous right now but to be able to have it come into another 4 feet, I don't know how the roof line would work to squeeze it in there that tight. And I don't think height wise I would lose too much pitch over that distance for snow and everything.
Just piece of information, you can build a flat roof to support the snow loads in Michigan.
Oh, okay. Didn't know that.
Any other questions or from our board? Thank you, Jack. We really appreciate you explaining it. At this point in time, I'm going to move to open our public hearing and ask anybody in favor of this applicant if they could speak on behalf. I'm not seeing anybody. I'll now ask anybody who wishes to speak in opposition. Once again, I'm not seeing anybody. Any other questions from our board? I'll close the public hearing and I'll ask for a motion on this matter.
I will make a motion again to unfortunately deny the request for variance.
Second.
Okay, we got a tie there between Fred and Mark.
Mark goes with Mark.
Mark seconded the motion by Brad. Go ahead, Brad.
Yes, so our findings of fact that requires to deny this application are that while the property does have an excessive front and side yard, I shouldn't say excessive, but you are required on that corner to have, I believe, the 25-foot setback, and there's not a place to put that there. Overall, there are not unique circumstances or physical conditions with the property that would require this. This is a self-created need for the variance, and strict compliance with the 7-foot setback will still not prevent you from using the property as an actual home. And we certainly understand the desire to protect what you've invested in, and we have to follow these guidelines.
Anything else? Not seeing any other discussion. I will look for a vote.
Motion is to deny the application. Fusak,
Yes.
Reisaki,
Yes.
Van Antwerp,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Shea,
Yes.
and Sorick.
Yes.
Motion to deny passes.
I know there's a lot of no's coming on here, and we do, please understand, we do have a lot of good reasons for these zoning ordinances, and we do like to keep them that way, and otherwise, we do not like to set precedents on these. We may agree that these are good ideas and they're good things, but unfortunately, we just don't want to open the door for a lot of other things. So we do try to keep a very clear review on these items. So we'll move on to 1055 Lincoln Avenue. Go ahead, Mallory.
1055 Lincoln Avenue, application number 21.02Z. Kevin Camarad, on behalf of Willow Partners, is requesting an interpretation or variance to divide his property at 1055 Lincoln Avenue. He would like to split the property, leaving 7 acres for the existing mobile home park, where the ordinance requires 10 acres. The Zoning Board of Appeals may approve this request if certain conditions are found to exist. 39-252A.
Thank you. And we are reviewing a dimensional variance on this property. And I will ask if there's somebody here to, on behalf of the applicant, to go over the application.
Yes, Mr. Chair, that's myself, Kelly Kuiper. I'm located in Hudsonville, Michigan tonight, but I'm representing Mr. Camarad for this request.
Thank you. Go ahead.
So we put together our application package that you all received, and the application, it might have been explained to you. It was kind of in 2 parts. We learned in dealing with city staff that the interpretation was not something that this board could legally take up. So we're focusing on that dimensional variance aspect. So just to clarify for you all, the narrative specifically related to the dimensional variance is the narrative and kind of the points that we'd like to go over tonight. And then in addition to those few pieces of paper that we responded to the standards of the variance, we've created or kind of created an addendum that we supplied to city staff. I'm not sure if you want to share that. I'm planning to just kind of go over it verbatim. But this addendum, it serves to speak to the unique conditions of the actual physical site characteristics a little bit more. Our actual variance standards were not very clear in how the actual site itself, the physical site, was unique and extraordinary. So we took some extra time to put together this additional document. And I think this serves a little bit better to utilize for our discussion tonight. So again, I'm mostly planning to go over it verbatim because I don't know that you've all seen this yet. So this is just something I asked to be placed up while I went over the points. But the history of this particular site is that back in 2006, Mr. Camarad asked for the northern 5.3 acres to be rezoned to C2. He worked with city staff on that request. And throughout the memo, when that rezoning was approved, there's language in there that speaks to an acknowledgement that in rezoning this property, it was intended to be used, marketed, and sold as a commercial piece. As we now know today, or as we all know today, that split never occurred. However, the effect or the ultimate effect of that split zoning is that this R4 area on the property decreased to 7.03 acres, essentially already creating a non-conforming situation because now there's only 7 acres available to host that permitted use of the mobile home. So there's only 7 acres available for the mobile home use, where 10 acres is required by the ordinance. Currently, we've learned though that this parcel doesn't necessarily need to be split to be utilized as commercial, but in keeping it as a split zone property, it just could potentially create these conflicts in uses. Not to mention the city's master plan indicates that northern portion of the parcel to be zoned commercial. It would allow a commercial parcel, as it's a freestanding parcel, to be consistent with commercial parcels on the west side of Lincoln. So that brings us here tonight where we're asking for this dimensional variance for this split essentially to occur. And we believe that in granting the variance, it provides a number of solutions for this particular parcel. It would rectify the non-conforming situation that the split zoning has created, decreasing that R4 area down to 7 acres. It would allow those separate zoning districts to be their own parcel and be more in the spirit of the zoning ordinance. It would allow those two separate parcels to fulfill the city's master plan, future land use designation for each parcel. It would ease city service processes, specifically ease in zoning enforcement issues, ease for tax bill purposes. And then I think one of the most important things I'll focus on a bit later is that granting this variance will not negatively impact the existing mobile home park due to the fact that it already functions on a 7-acre area. So it's not going to be impacted by a potential split. So now moving into these standards that you all consider in a dimensional variance. Again, these points are a bit different than what we supplied in the original package. So I'll just kind of go through them for everybody's benefit. So that first question of really why is this property itself unique, or what conditions are extraordinary here? And so this variance is being requested, we believe, due to the unique configuration of the property. So this commercial zoning area, that area that's encompassed is of the unique shape, and it was created in a way that allows a minimum access out to Lincoln Street. So this commercial area extends into a triangular shape to the northeast, and therefore, even with a minimum amount of frontage on Lincoln Street, as the survey shows 58.7 feet, this expands to encompass a full 5.3 acres when you draw a perpendicular line across the property. And then in addition, that commercially zoned area is encumbered by a scenic purposes easement. So it just further encumbers and kind of decreases any potential building area for commercial uses in that commercial zoned area. We don't believe that this need for variance is self-created. The unique configuration of the property as described throughout these notes, such as the triangular shape towards the northeast, and the scenic easements were not caused by the applicant himself. Strict compliance with the regulations governing some of these dimensional requirements would unreasonably prevent us from using the property in a permitted purpose, or would strict compliance make conformity with those regulations unnecessarily burdensome. So strict compliance to this 10-acre lot requirement for mobile home parks would be unnecessarily burdensome on this commercially zoned area for a few reasons. If we were to keep 10 acres for the R4 district, that would only leave 2.3 acres for a commercially zoned area and commercially zoned uses. Because this commercially zoned area is encumbered by an easement for scenic purposes, those two items coupled with traditional C2 setbacks decrease a building envelope or a buildable area down to about 21,000 square feet, which is really not comparable to other commercial properties within the city and within the community. Therefore, strict compliance with this 10-acre requirement does unreasonably prevent the property owner from using that commercially zoned area in a way that all other commercially zoned properties get to use. Nobody's property is being kind of restricted in the same manner that these current requirements on this parcel are. And I think it's also important to point out, this is, I'm straying from my notes a second, but that this configuration, the kind of sketch that I drew shows what the blue area shows what 2.3 acres would look like. This configuration is not really a solution because it doesn't aid the mobile home park in any way. By by decreasing down where we cut a commercial line, doesn't change the zoning of the property. So it doesn't allow the mobile home park to necessarily expand into a full 10 acres. The mobile home park, that zoning is already down to 7 acres. So if we were to redraw this commercial line, that area, that kind of white area that we've left now to the east of the property, would essentially sit vacant, because as a commercially zoned piece, it wouldn't be able to support the uses of that mobile home park district. So it really just renders the property then completely useless, which also is a pretty unique circumstance that's related directly to the situation of being split zoned. The next standard, why this variance, is the minimum relief to do substantial justice. So again, this split zoning line, it leaves just a 58.7 feet of frontage in that commercially zoned portion of the property. So in order to preserve separate access for uses in the commercial zoned area, this is a very limited amount of access and frontage on Lincoln Street. And then due to the configuration of the property, extending in a triangular shape to the northeast, that commercially zoned area expands then into that 5.3 acres as shown when you draw a perpendicular line. And then drawing the line perpendicularly, I mean, I realize that that also could be subject to question, but drawing that proposed line in a perpendicular fashion, it allows a building envelope to be maintained in an appropriate way for a commercially zoned area, just given how, you know, if you were to draw it, let's say parallel to the scenic easement, now you're squeezing a building envelope in kind of an unrealistic fashion. So the way that it's shaped, the way that that line was drawn is really due to the unique circumstances of that triangular area plus the scenic easement. And then last, will this variance cause any adverse impact on surrounding properties, property values, et cetera? And I do think that this is one of the most important parts of this application, is that, as I mentioned before, this commercially zoned area could already be used for commercial uses, since more than one principal use is allowed on the property. But that requires this property to stay tied into one ownership, to maintain split zoning, to maintain multiple uses that are kind of conflicting, which is not being asked of, or the situation that would be considered standard for any other property in the community. So by splitting them, it allows those properties to function separately. But again, I think the most important part of this that I want to bring up is that this variance, which essentially only allows the property to be split in the manner that's shown, will not alter or impact the surrounding property values, or enjoyment of properties by others, because it can already be used in that fashion. So really, this variance just allows the property to gain a new tax bill and a new parcel number. So it's not going to, the neighbors essentially will not see the difference, because we cannot see our property, you know, lines when we're just kind of using our property. And then also the variance will not negatively impact the mobile home park, because the mobile home park already functions on a 7.03 acre area just fine. And it's done so since this split zone happened back in 2006. So it will continue to be able to operate in that way. And then the last couple items that I just wanted to point out to you are more in relation to the original narrative that we supplied. There's just some unique circumstances as it relates to mobile home parks. Our understanding is that, and I'm not sure if Dan had a chance to vet maybe, or I don't know if Kevin was going to look into it. I think the city's under the understanding that the ordinance has been reviewed and approved by the Mobile Home Commission, but that's also kind of an interesting piece that we learned throughout this process, is that any ordinances, even at just a local level, have to be approved in order to be kind of upheld at the local level. They have to be approved through the State Mobile Home Commission. And Kevin he's a member of that kind of commission, and he's checked with everybody. There is no problem at the state level to have a mobile home park under 10 acres. In fact, the definition of a mobile home park is really just where 3 or more mobile homes exist together. So from the state's perspective, who really is kind of the ultimate authority on mobile home parks, they do not have an issue with a mobile home park that is 7 acres as proposed here.
Thank you very much, Kelly, for your presentation and for reviewing the application and its thoroughness. Any other questions from our board at this time? I see Devin raising his hand finger. I'll go with you, Devin, first.
Thanks, Dan. So I'll be honest, I'm leaning towards a certain way on this. I have one hang up. I have heard a couple times the argument that, well, now since it's commercially zoned, we can't use it as a mobile home park. Am I taking this out of context somehow, or is that part of an argument?
I'll answer that one, Devin. Mobile home parks are only allowed in the mobile home park R4 zone district, which alleviates or eliminates it from being used in the commercial portion of this lot. So they cannot expand. They cannot expand the mobile home park any more than what their zoning allows.
Okay, so it's a bit of unconventional in the sense that usually the commercial would be a higher use than residential, but in the case of a mobile home park, okay, then that clears that up, because that was my only hang up is that. But thank you. Yeah.
Mark, I saw you had your hand up. Go ahead, Mark.
Dan, would you tell me, when they created this zoning request in 2006, that does not prevent them from developing that property, correct? I didn't word that right. It can still remain one property, correct?
Yeah, it is one property, and it can remain one property.
And remain one property. Okay. So
right,
that doesn't.
They cannot expand the mobile home park into the commercial.
Gotcha.
So it really can never be 10 acres.
Correct. Okay. Thank you.
Matt, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess I kind of wanted to tag along with Mark's question there. I'm a bit confused regarding I wasn't on Board of Appeals, and I wasn't in the situation back in 2006. Kelly, I'm not sure if you were either. Do you know why it was that back in the day they decided to rezone this? It seems odd to me that the way I'm reading this is that the property owner wanted it rezoned, and now the property owner wants not only it to stay rezoned, but wants us to chop this into 2 properties and create a property that would break our ordinance.
Right.
Well, so initially in 2006, what was the what was the reason given for doing the commercial rezoning? Because we've also just established that in doing so, hasn't it been prevented that the mobile home area couldn't go any further than 7 acres because you had zoned it? You had the zoning changed so that it theoretically couldn't, if you wanted to, unless you changed it back to original.
Right. Yeah, I mean, theoretically, the rezoning caused the nonconformity essentially, but here we are, right? It's 15 years later, and we're trying to rectify that situation. I wasn't involved, but my understanding is that Kevin requested that northern portion to be rezoned commercial, and this was in an effort to utilize the property for its highest and best use. The master plan, the future land use designation for the northern portion of this property is commercial, given its frontage on 31. This really is, that is meant to be a commercial area. So Kevin's rezone really did help the city fulfill some of its land use goals. Kevin's intention always was to split it off, but here's my understanding, and he's traveling, so he wasn't able to be on this call, is that there's some decommissioning and things that need to happen with a mobile home park. And so he kind of got caught up in the details, wanted to make sure that with this rezone was going to happen before he really amended and adjusted things with the State Mobile Home Commission as to the size and area of that mobile home park. And then at that point, we start entering into the recession. And now there no longer was an immediate user to buy this commercially zoned area. And it almost just got lost in the shuffle. But his intention always was to split it off so that it could be this separate commercial parcel and live up to that highest and best use of the future land use plan. Again, it's almost my understanding that it's very clear, even if you read the staff memo from the rezone, this parcel was meant to be sold and utilized and marketed as a commercial piece. And I just don't know where the ball got dropped. The ball got dropped somewhere. And we are here because this is the appropriate board to, like I said, rectify this very unique situation with that the split zoning created.
Thank you, Kelly. Fred, you have your hand raised.
I have a question for Dan. So Dan, is this property under one ownership, and is it currently zoned, has two different zones on it?
That's correct.
That's correct. And by doing that, we made the mobile home portion non-conforming.
Right, through the action of the rezoning, we made basically have limited the mobile home park to less than 10 acres.
And if we were to approve this tonight, what would be the effect of approving this? What would we be left with?
Well, you got a couple things here. One is your question is it something that is going to mean that all these situations are going to, all the mobile home parks are going to do this, or they're all going to reduce in size? Obviously, there is also uniqueness with the development of this commercial space, with our wonderful scenic easement there, which we haven't quite figured out what that means. It eliminates that.
Don't steal my question for Kelly, Dan. I was going to ask Kelly.
I'm sorry.
The purpose of the scenic easement. Go ahead. Sorry.
So then, if you also add the current setbacks that the C2 instigates, so you've got 50 feet. It's on a corner lot with two frontages. Subtract 50 feet from those, in addition to your 25 from the rear. You don't have a lot of developable area on the C2.
Mm-hmm. Right. So if we were to approve this tonight, what would we be left with? We'd be left with 7 acres zoned, what, R4? What is it zoned?
Yeah, R4, correct.
R4, and we would have the remainder zoned.
C2.
Already been
that's already there. It's just that
there.
they would be on different pieces of property as opposed to being on the same property.
Right. And
it doesn't really change a lot.
Okay. So, all right. Thank you very much. That's it for me.
All right. So I'm going to ask my question. But first, I got another question to Fred. Were you on Planning Commission in 2006 when you?
No, I was not. I would have been hanging my head in embarrassment if I was, let me tell you.
All right. So Kelly, you already heard my
the scenic easement. Great question. I have no idea who put it into effect. I do know from the little snippets of title work that I was able to see that it prevents structures from being built in it. But it does allow drainage because of the proximity to 31. Back when the rezone happened, Naderville did assist Mr. Camerad with the rezone. And at that same time, Jack Barr was working on it. And Jack Barr went through a lot of work with MDOT to get drainage all approved on this site. And so some of that drainage is in the scenic easement, but it just prevents buildings from being in there.
Okay.
And I don't know, maybe staff knows a little bit more about it.
My guess also, just my own personal guess, is that it could be just for a clear distance, for safety. It's just worded weird, funky.
I know.
Okay. Mike, go ahead. Mike from Holland, go ahead.
Thank you. Fred wasn't on planning commission, but I was on council. So, and I'm going to indulge here and correct me if I'm wrong, but was there not part of the trailer park on that land at one point, and it was cleared off for, what was the words that were used? To tidy up the area, I think was the reason. So there's a little bit of history of why you had 10 acres at one time that you do no longer have. Memory also serves me that at some point there was going to be some reconstruction, and I think you, Kelly, you alluded to some remediation that has to be done there. There was going to be some reconstruction at some point of the trailer park to the north. That was part of the reason that was brought to council, if memory serves me correctly. I'm getting to be an old man. My memory doesn't do me all well, but I do believe that that was part of it. So I just wanted to bring that in as a little bit of history for the board that's going to be voting on this. To me, I guess your question number 2, from what I just explained, may or may not have some bearings. So take the facts for what they are. Thank you.
Any other questions from our board for our applicant? All right, I'm not seeing any. Thank you very much, Kelly. At this time, I will move to open a public hearing and entertain anybody who wishes to speak in support of this applicant, or in opposition of this applicant. Seeing none either way, I will ask any other questions from our board. I will now close the public hearing and move to seek a motion.
I move that we approve the request for a dimensional variance.
Or
Support from Brad. Go ahead, Fred.
I would rather be called anonymous in this particular case. My feeling is that this is, we've left the situation, a combination of decisions that have left the situation in such a mess that it's very difficult to use this property in a way that's economically feasible for the owners and ultimately for the city of Holland. It's kind of a sore spot. It's probably a very unintentional situation, but this is the way it is. So I'm going ahead to try to approve this. I think there are unique circumstances or physical conditions with the property that have been outlined. The remainder that has been left due to some inadvertent means almost makes the remainder of the property unusable. Did the applicant do something that created the need for the variance? No, I don't think so. Will strict compliance with the 10-acre parcel requirement prevent the applicant from using the property? Yes. Is the 7-acre parcel request the minimum necessary? Well, since nobody can explain the reason why there is a need for 10-acre mobile home park, there's just no explanation for it, and it's making the whole situation unworkable. The city has already made the decision to make this a non-conforming situation, so I would say yes to that also. That's it for me.
Thank you very much for your motion, Fred. Thank you for going through your findings of fact. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, Vince Duckworth here.
Go ahead, Vince.
Did Fred address the last factor as to whether the variance will cause a negative impact on the neighbors? I'm trying to take notes here on the findings.
I did not mention that because we don't hear anybody, the neighbors in this particular case, I guess would be people living in the mobile home park. And we did not hear anybody come forward to address this issue. I'm sure it's been posted and they know what's going on. So I don't think that, I can't address that issue.
I guess I would ask that for some consideration from the board for a finding as to whether or not it would cause a negative impact on neighbors.
All right, well, I'll go ahead and say that I don't think that it will cause a negative impact on the neighbors.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Once again, my gratitude to you, Fred, for making the motion. And I believe we're ready for a vote now.
But before we do it,
Go ahead,
I just
Matt.
wanted to, I'm still a bit hung up and just need some clarification. So I guess I had thought that the property itself being over 10 acres and being part of it being used for a mobile home park, the fact that it had been reduced, the zoning had been reduced under 10 is the issue that was approved, and the city had effectively created a non-conforming lot by doing so, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we sort of have created the unique circumstances.
It becomes non-conforming once the property is split, which is what the applicant is proposing to do.
Okay, but isn't it non-conforming now because of the 10-acre requirement, even though because it's being zoned, it has been zoned to for use as a mobile home park, it's under 10. So even though the property is over 10 acres, it still is against the ordinance because we rezoned it.
Right. They couldn't use the remaining acreage that is zoned commercial as a mobile home park.
They would have to rezone it again to R4
Correct.
to an expansion of that.
Right.
Okay.
That answer your question?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. I think we're ready for a vote.
The motion is to approve Van Antwerp,
Yes.
Muzak,
Yes.
Reisaki,
No.
Davis,
Yes.
Shea,
You bet.
and Sork.
Yes.
All right, motion to approve passes.
All right. Thank you. And we are moving down to our last two items, and we have some very patient people here. Thank you very much for bearing with us. As we move on to 877 and 897 Washington Avenue.
This is application number 21.03Z. Richard Dirksey, on behalf of Dirksey Investment Group LLC, is requesting a variance to move the property line between two properties he owns 21 feet to the north. The property at 897 Washington would become conforming, but the property at 877 Washington would become non-conforming. The Zoning Board of Appeals may approve this request if certain conditions are found to exist. 39-118C.
Okay, thank you. And I believe we have somebody here to go ahead, Ken.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Ken Pazicki. I'm an attorney in town, and I'm representing Richard Dirksey and his siblings, who collectively call themselves the Dirksey Investment Group, otherwise known as DIG. These properties were inherited by the Dirksey children from their father back in the late 80s, early 90s, including these several properties, including these two, which are contiguous to each other. And if any of you are familiar with the area, these two buildings share common parking lots. They share common driveways. There are easements crossing the different parcels. And it's been that way for as long as I've been in town and for as long as Rich can remember. The northern parcel is presently being used as a party store, Southside Party Store. And the owner of the party store approached Rich in an effort to purchase the party store. He's been there several years. Southside Party Store has been there for several decades. And apparently the owner got sick of paying rent, and he approached Rich about the possibility of purchasing the party store. They've reached terms. And so the issue then became, all right, we need to put some in this. That's why I included the easement agreement as part of our application, because as you all well know, when you have different owners of adjacent parcels that share common parking lots, it is absolutely imperative that the relationship between the properties and the property owners be very specifically delineated, so that if there are any issues down the road, that those issues have been resolved, including snow removal and driveway maintenance and who can drive across which parcel and which direction, et cetera, et cetera. And Mr. Dirksey and the prospective purchaser hammered out those details as best they could. And then the issue became this space between the two buildings. And currently, there's a space approximately 26, 27 feet between the two properties. Very, very ample space to allow cars to drive through. In fact, cars do pass through there periodically. But the driveway itself between the two properties belongs to, oh, I just got can everybody still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I just got a strange symbol that popped up on my screen. I'm not sure what that was. Right now, the driveway between the two properties is owned by or is part of the party store parcel. And the purpose for this application is to seek to take that property line and move the property line between the two properties approximately 20 feet to the north, so that the driveway between the two parcels will become part of the strip mall property rather than part of the party store property. We currently, the southern parcel is non-conforming because the property line is only 7 feet away from the building, whereas the party store property is conforming. Yes, that's a very good. Thank you, Trish. And so the party store property is conforming because the southern property line is more than 25 feet from the edge of the building. So we have one non-conforming parcel and one conforming parcel. What we're asking for is a variance which would allow us to move that property line to the north, so that the party store would become non-conforming and the strip mall to the south would become conforming. So we're just taking that conformity and using it as a hot potato and pushing it from one parcel to the other. And again, outward appearances, nobody's going to know the difference except the parcel owners. And with the proposed driveway agreement that's in place, even the relationship between the two property owners ought not change. And the reason we're requesting this lot line adjustment is the Dirkseys are going to retain ownership of the strip mall, the property to the south. And they would like to have the flexibility of controlling that driveway between the two properties. And the proposed owner of the party store does not want to control the driveway between the two properties. So this is a convenient time to move that property line to the north so that it will go with the southern parcel rather than with the northern parcel. So it's this is a rich, certain, the Dirksey kids certainly didn't create this. We really don't know when their father Herman bought these properties, but he had them for several years. So this is not really something that the current applicant created. I suppose the argument could be made that it's being created because we're trying to sell one of the parcels, but I don't think that qualifies as creating a problem. In fact, I think it's in everybody's best interest to be able to sell one of these parcels without selling both. And that's in fact what we're doing. The Dirkseys would like to sell the party store. They do not want to sell the strip mall to the south. And moving the lot line north 20 feet would allow them to do that, would allow them to retain control of the space between the two parcels in order to effectuate the sale. And I think the easement agreement is very detailed. Mr. Persinger and I hammered out the details of that. I think that moving forward, whoever owns this property 30 years from now and whoever owns the party store 30 years from now are going to have an agreement in place that that is in the city's best interest to control the traffic patterns between the two properties.
Thank you, Ken. And looks like Mark has a question. Go ahead.
Would creating an easement to the southern property through the northern property solve this problem?
The problem is going to exist regardless of where this property line is. The traffic pattern across these two parcels has been in existence for the last 30 years. Right now, so to your question, the legal answer to your question is right now we don't need an easement because we have a common owner.
Correct.
Once we divide the ownership, yes, we do need easements. In fact, that's the, I included a 6 or 7 page agreement, which includes several easement agreements, ingress, egress, and crossing the different properties. But to your point, it would be possible for the owner of the party store to grant an easement to the owner of the strip mall to run cars through that opening between the two parcels. That much is true. Regardless of where that property line is, either the party store grants an easement to the strip mall or the owner of the strip mall has to grant an easement to the owner of the party store. And because the Dirkseys are retaining ownership of the strip mall, they would like to retain control, ownership, if you will, of the area between the two properties. They would rather own and be subject to an easement rather than simply have an easement over the party store property. At the end of the day, it's all about who controls that property between the two parcels. You know, again, from outward appearances, nobody's going to know any different. It's just we're taking one nonconformity and pushing it towards the other property.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Well, I have a question. It relates to the criteria that we use to make a decision about this request.
Sure.
And one of the questions that we have is, did the applicant do something that created the need for this variance? And I'd like you to answer that question.
Well, I suppose the desire to sell this property created the need for an easement, for sure. I mean, right now, the Dirkseys own both of these properties side by side. Something has to be done. Either they have to put together a series of mutual easements across the property. And again, that agreement is there. But really the issue is who controls that intermediate ground between the properties. So you know, I guess I'm going to ask your question another way. Could the sale take place without the property line being moved? And the answer is yes, but we would prefer for it not to. And the proposed lot line shift doesn't affect anybody negatively. And both parties are in agreement that it would be appropriate to move that property line to the north.
The next question that we have in our list of questions is, will strict compliance with the side yard setback prevent the applicant from using the property?
The answer to that question is almost moot, because there is, right now, that one of the properties is non-conforming. It's already non-conforming. We're asking that the property line be shifted so that the non-conformity be attached to the party store parcel rather than to the strip mall parcel. So there's no way for both of these parcels to be in strict conformance with the ordinance.
Yeah, well, it's not about the conformance. It's about, will strict compliance with the side yard setback prevent the applicant from using the property? Will it prevent the applicant from using the property?
Well, the premise of the question assumes that there could be strict compliance, and there can't be strict compliance. It's right, because we're currently non-compliant.
But you could have an easement that would settle the matter.
Yes.
Okay, that's all my questions. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Is the party store operator here to take any of our questions?
I don't know. Josh, are you there? I don't know. I can't see all the different screens. I don't think he's participating.
Somebody did call in, and I did admit somebody to the meeting, but there's no name associated, so I'm not sure who it is.
Okay.
But if they wish to speak, they need to unmute themselves.
Josh is just calling him.
He's Josh is actually on the phone. If you can put him on speaker, maybe he can.
Hello, Josh. Are you there? Josh, your phone call is very timely. We're right now we're having the meeting.
The feedback is killing us.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to work.
It's not going to work.
No.
I don't know. Didn't work.
He tried to call in apparently, but
the feedback was too great.
The feedback is screwing everything up.
Okay.
I don't know if Josh.
There's no disagreement with the party store operator.
Well, I think they're trying to confirm that.
Oh.
One of the issues that I wanted to address was the understanding that if you moved this 21 feet north, that it wouldn't impact either property either way. I was a little bit concerned about the party store having I believe they have an entrance. I don't know if they just use it for employees or loading or what the deal is there, but I wanted to ascertain whether or not that would impact their business in any way. If you move it 21 feet there, are they not going to be able to even use that entrance without an easement if they need to load and unload things there? Just wanted some clarity there.
Sure. So that entrance that you're referring to actually is the entrance to a small office in that corner of the building. And again, the use of the properties isn't going to change because the easement agreement allows the Southside Party Store owner to drive between the properties and to access that door where the little hand is there. You can see Rich's car. That's Rich's minivan right there. And there's a door that the southeast corner of that property is about a 700 square foot office. And again, the easement agreement between the property owners that we've proposed allows the Southside Party Store people to get in and out of that door, and they can drive between the two properties. So there's really no adverse effect to the
to the owner of the party store property whatsoever, because they have written permission through the easement agreement to access that door that you're speaking of, and to have vehicular ingress and egress through that parcel, through that strip between the properties.
Is there a way to access that office besides that one door?
Nope.
Out of curiosity.
Nope. That's the only door.
Okay.
It's the only door. Now let me mention another fact that for those of you that are familiar with that property, the northern tenant of that strip mall, right where that cursor is, yeah, that northern tenant it used to be Frosty's. For as long as I've been here, it's always been Frosty's. Only until recently, it's now a submarine shop, a submarine sandwich shop. And the reason that the Dirksies would like to own that strip rather than just have an easement across it is because the tenant in that particular part of the building oftentimes has tables and chairs for their patrons to eat their ice cream or eat their hot dog or whatever. And so if the party store has a right of ingress and egress all the time, then the tenant of the strip mall, who has the ice cream shop or the sub shop, doesn't have control over that area to be able to put tables and chairs. So what we've proposed, and it's clearly set forth in the easement agreement, is for a seasonal access for the party store to drive through, and during the and for snow plowing, and during the season where Frosty's is open or the sub shop is open, they can have tables and chairs between the two properties without adversely affecting the drive easement, because the drive easement is only a seasonal easement. But the bottom line is the owners of the party store have full access to that rear door, which is ultimately the question you asked, I think.
Is there an easement? Is there an easement for the rear of that building for access off of 35th Street?
There will be. So right now there's not, because it's a common owner.
Okay.
But the easement agreement that we've drafted and attached to our proposal gives the tenants in the back of the party store a 33-foot vehicular access to get to and from 35th Street across the party store parcel.
Okay.
And they also share ingress and egress to Michigan Avenue, because again, the way the property lines are situated, they have to share a curb cut to Michigan Avenue, which is almost directly between the two parcels. So the easement agreement that we put together outlines all that. Irrespective of where the property line is, there's going to be mutual easements allowing each of these owners to cross each other's parcels for getting in and out and for traversing the property to get to and from the various buildings.
So the proposed easement that you have attached is going to be executed pretty much no matter what?
Yes.
Okay. And then I also see on there's a proposed easement for parking. I'm guessing, is that for Southside Inn?
Yes. Yeah, and you know, they're not operational right now, but the owner of the party store has the flexibility of entering into an arrangement with the owner of Southside Inn, because Southside Inn really they have virtually no parking on site. So for the past 500,000 years, they've actually rented part of Rich's parking lot as a parking lot.
Okay.
But that's going to be between the owner of Southside Party Store and the owner of Southside Inn to negotiate the use of that. But we put that on the drawing just so everybody is aware of the circumstances. So what we're asking for is it's not an unequivocal need. We'll grant you that. We're asking for a request. And again, the issue is who owns that strip between the two parcels, and indirectly who controls it. And because Rich and his siblings will continue to own the strip mall, they would like to have control over that property between the two buildings.
Any other questions from our board?
Out of curiosity, if the Southside Party Store owner becomes the owner of the property, and then he sells it to someone who turns out to be a big jerk and doesn't want to like grant easement to you guys, are you stranded at that point? You have no access?
You hit the nail on the head, okay? Josh is a great guy. Josh is the guy who owns Southside Party Store. If we knew with absolute certainty that he would remain the owner, there would be no problem. But whenever you have two commercial properties next to each other, that relationship can go south in a hurry if the wrong party takes over the property, which is why control over that driveway is really what the Dirksies would like to have. They'd like to have control over that because the next owner of the party store might not let Frosty's or the sub shop put tables and chairs for their patrons. They might not want that. Whereas if the owner of the strip mall owns that thoroughfare between the two properties, they will have the say so as to whether or not they can put tables and chairs between the two properties. But you hit the nail on the head. The current owner is a joy to deal with. The next owner might not be as friendly. I'm dealing with a situation in Holland Township where this has exploded into litigation, and it is absolutely ugly, which is why we have that mutual driveway agreement in place, and we've addressed all of these the issues that you've discussed, including the seasonal nature of the easement between the two buildings. But that's why we're trying to do this, is to protect not only the next owners of the strip mall, but also the next owners of the party store, so that this relationship can go on in perpetuity, because that agreement will be in place, it will be on record, it will be recorded with Allegan County Register of Deeds. So the next owner of either of these properties will buy the property subject to that easement agreement.
Thank you, everyone. If there's no other questions, I will open our public hearing. And it's now so open. Anybody who wishes to speak in favor of the applicant? Anyone who wishes to speak in opposition of this application? Not seeing anybody wishing to speak in favor or against, I will close the public hearing and move towards deliberation. Looking for a motion. One thing I guess I would like to input prior to a motion being made would be the point that was just made, actually, which rings home the fact that the city, for in perpetuity, having access to the rear of that building for deliveries, for parking, for off of this, makes a lot of sense to me. So I'm looking for a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Matt and a second by Devin to approve the application.
So I would say that starting off the bat, the unique circumstance that we find this property in is that regardless, well, the properties, regardless of our decision, there is now there is an unconforming property. That's a bit strange to me, and I think that the reason for the variance kind of stems from that unique circumstance. I don't think that the property owner has created that themselves. I think that it is simply a nature of this beast. And I do believe that if strict compliance with the setback could potentially harm the applicant's use of the property. I believe that is my argument. If anybody has anything to add or want to discuss, let me know. I don't think I've missed anything.
Any other discussion? Not seeing anybody. I will
Mr.
ask for.
Chairman, this is Vince with the city attorney.
Go ahead, Vince.
I know it's getting late in our evening here. I think there are two other factors that need to have evidence or fact findings, which would be factors 4 and 5. Both the is this the minimum amount necessary, and also any negative impact on neighbors. I don't know. I didn't hear anything to make notes on those findings. Just wonder if those could be addressed before there's a vote.
As far as item number 5, causing a negative impact on the neighbors, I do not believe that that's going to be the case. As far as I'm aware, this is going to be quite amicable with the who will be the future owners of the north side property and whoever they end up giving or selling the property to in the future. The fourth item, I'm a little unclear about moving the property line 21 feet north, the minimum amount necessary. I guess I would say yes, because that makes the south property conforming. I don't know if anyone can provide clarity beyond that, but that's what I would say for that fourth item.
May I respond briefly to that inquiry?
I don't believe you can. This would be more for Dan or Tricia to chime in if I'm misinterpreting that fourth point. I think that is the minimum amount necessary, and that makes that south side property conforming. Am I reading that right?
Vince, are you all set with that, with his answer?
Yeah, I'm all set with the statements of fact supporting the motion by the moving member. Yes, I'm fine.
All right, thank you. And then I think oh, Fred, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a couple of comments. I certainly am of the opinion that this application makes sense to the owners. It certainly makes sense to me. But on the other hand, I think that we have a decision-making matrix here that we use for making our decisions on our board, and I simply can't agree with the facts of this matter. I don't think that there are unique circumstances or physical conditions with the property, and I do think the applicant did something that created the need for this variance. And strict compliance with a side yard setback, I don't think will prevent the applicant from using the property. And so I unfortunately am not going to support, and I just wanted to make myself clear why I'm not. In my own mind, it's more or less, who cares about this? It could be easily resolved between the owners, but they have to come in to us to have this question resolved. And we unfortunately have a matrix that we use for making decisions like this. And for me, I have to be consistent with how I've answered these questions in other matters. So I'm not going to support the motion.
Thank you, Fred.
Thank you.
And I think we're ready for a vote.
The motion is to approve Davis,
Yes.
Shea,
Yes.
Cusack,
Yes.
Vaisaki,
Yes.
Van Antwerp,
No.
Sorick.
Yes.
Motion to approve passes.
Thank you.
All right, and now on to our final applicant. 767 Chicago Drive. If we have a representative from our, excuse me, I'll have Mallory read it first.
All right, 767 Chicago Drive, application number 21.04Z. Joe Benton, on behalf of Preferred Auto Dealerships, is requesting a parking lot setback variance and special exception for an addition for the property he would like to purchase at 767 Chicago Drive. A 5-foot parking lot setback variance is requested along the front property line, where a 10-foot setback is required. A special exception is required to expand the building along or within the existing building line. The Zoning Board of Appeals may approve this request if certain conditions are found to exist. 39-54.1A, 39-117B, and 39-405C.
Okay, thank you very much. And again, to our applicant, thank you very much for your patience. It's been a long night, so we will try to proceed through this one expeditiously.
Yeah, it sounds good. My name is Kyle Visker from Land and Resource Engineering out of Grand Rapids, and I'm here to represent or on behalf of Joe Benton and Preferred Auto Dealers. Joe is in the process of looking to purchase the property, and what he, I guess, let me start with it. Currently the property was, when they built it, I don't know when it was constructed, but they received a variance for the parking setback at that time. They also received a variance for the reduced building setback on the west side. That building setback was reduced from, I think, which was required 25 feet to 7 feet. And then the parking variance was along the front of the front setback along Chicago Drive. And reading through what they added, it says that the 5-foot variance was accepted. It appears that it was constructed a little bit different than that. If you look on the plans, part of the parking is actually in the Chicago Drive right away, and then it kind of angles off the road to a point where it's about 10 feet off the right of way. So that's kind of like the current situation. Part of the reason for the variance, my understanding, is the back of the property, the topography dives down to the river, and there's a floodplain down there. So the buildable area of the site was pretty limited. So I believe, those were the main reasons for the accepting the variances at that time. So now Joe would like to make a small building addition, a 24 by 16 building addition on the west side of the building, which in this case would be in that setback area, that 25-foot setback area. But we continue it along that 7-foot line that's currently there. That building area is for parking cars in and kind of having a car display area is what it would be. And then the second request of the parking setback is to get the parking aligned with Chicago Drive, which is similar to the other properties in the area. Their site is a little different because the building is not parallel to the road where the other ones are, but having cars on display, it makes sense for it to be parallel with the road. And you can also bring the original variance request, based on how I understand it, back to kind of how it should be. 5 feet along the front. So I think that's pretty much all I have for, now. If you have questions for me, and I can take those.
Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, my question is, the owner, Joe, wants to purchase this property so that he can turn it into a car lot.
Well,
I'm struggling to understand functionality, how it would function as a car lot when there's only, 10 spaces maybe to park cars. Is the intention of the new owner to stack cars in there without any space between the cars, or without any driveway?
Stack. He's intending to park some cars in the building. So approximately half of the building will be his dealership. The other half is the kitchen showroom. But yeah, so there'll be cars in the building, and then this new little addition would have cars in there, and then along the front. So no, his intent is not to pack the site so you can't drive around in it. And I think we were demonstrated on our site plan that you can park the cars that would be required on the site without.
Okay.
Anybody else have questions for the applicant?
I guess just to clarify, if this dimensional variance is not granted, would the owner still be able to use his section of the building and the lot outside for the intended purpose, or would it prevent him from using it that way?
Let's see. I believe. Let me just check here. Yeah, I mean, he wouldn't be able to have the number of parking spaces.
I guess is it an upgrade, or is it if I can't get this dimensional variance, there's no way that my business could function here type of deal?
I have I believe one of the builders, Mark Anthony, might be on the line. If he is, he can answer that question better than me.
Yeah, this is Mark Anthony.
Yeah.
You got me?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, he could use it without the addition. It just enhances more of a display of, vehicles. Just make it the star of the show in a little addition there. But he can park his cars inside, display them. He can display the allotted mounts outside in the parking lot. So it's not a deal breaker, but it would be nice and dress up the building quite a bit, we believe.
Thank you.
One thing I wanted to point out to the board was there's two applications here. There's the addition, which is a longer within, which has certain standards for it. And then there is a variance request, which has different standards for that. So the building addition is considered longer within, and its standards don't include, can you use this property for anything else? So I just want you to make sure you're separating the two conditions.
Thank you, Dan.
I had a quick question for you, Kyle, or Mark, whoever might be able to answer this. If you were to move the parking setback to 10 feet, would it reduce the amount of parking available to you that's necessary for the building?
Yes, it would. I mean, the parking there is tight to begin with. So if we slide that another 5 feet closer to the building, we'll be losing a space. Yeah, I think we'd be losing just one space, but it might be more.
But not enough that it limits the number of not needed parking spaces for the building.
No, that if we lose any spaces, then we wouldn't meet the required amount of parking. So yeah, what we're showing is, I believe, 30 parking spaces, and that's what would be required.
Any other questions from our board? Okay, not seeing any others. I will thank you for presenting, and I will now go to our public hearing, open our public hearing. Anybody wishes to speak in favor of this applicant? Again, there's 2 items to be considered here, the special exception and the dimensional variance. Anybody who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? Not seeing any, I'll close the public hearing and move into deliberation with our board. And again, I'll be looking for 2 motions here. One for a motion on the dimensional variance for the 5-foot parking lot setback, and a second motion for the special exception along or within for the, I believe it was 24 by 16 foot building addition. I mean, you can all put your hands down. You don't have to speak all at once, all over top of everyone here.
Can you put somebody else's hand up if you want?
Being chair, though, I'm not usually the person to make the motion.
May I remind you, Mr. Chair, it is 10 minutes to 9, and I think we can kind of waive that protocol.
I'll make a motion to approve the special exception along or within the building addition.
I'll second it.
Finds of fact to approve. Yes, the proposed building addition would be along or within the existing side setback line of the existing building. It is a conforming use for the building for this zone district. Yes, the encroachment in character with the existing neighborhood. Will the building addition along the side of the building be detrimental to the adjoining property or the neighborhood? I think that's a no. And then certainly, of course, will the construction of the building addition fully comply with the building code of the city? I would say yes. I believe it has to.
Okay, let's take this matter up. Any other discussion?
I was a bit confused. If this special exception, sorry, it's late, is approved, I guess what I was concerned with is the final finding of fact here. Will the construction of the building addition fully comply with the building code of the city? I thought that was only going to be true regarding like the parking situation if we also approved of the change, dimensional variance. So do we need to do the dimensional variance first, or they can be seen as 2 separate?
Matt, that's a section that's just basically saying you're going to comply with all the additional requirements. Besides, I mean, whenever you're going for these, it is kind of a legal way to basically violate the law. So that's not going to be, how do I say this?
They'll get a building permit, they'll get a sign permit if they have to.
Yeah.
They'll get a permit to put up the building addition. They'll meet everything else that the city requires to construct the addition that was approved.
Yeah, it's kind of a throwaway section because they have to anyway. Yeah, it's a throwaway section, unfortunately.
Okay. I just thought there might have been something in the code that has to do with parking versus square footage and that sort of thing. So, okay. Thanks for clearing that up.
Okay, and any other discussion on the special exception? And we'll take a vote on that.
All right, so the motion is to approve Cusack,
Yes.
Sorick,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Yes, that was Shay. Sorry.
sorry, and Van Antwerp,
Yes.
and Vaisaki.
Yes.
All right, motion to approve passes.
Okay, looking for one more motion.
Maybe I can help you guys out a little bit. Maybe I can actually speak without biting my tongue 12 times.
Go ahead.
There was a variance. There were multiple variances that were approved for this property. One of them was for the building setback, and the other was for the parking lot setback. So I'm just trying to provide some history and context to this whole thing. They were approved to place their parking lot 5 feet closer to the right of way, with the findings of fact that this property is oddly shaped. The building was difficult to sight on it because of the angle at which Chicago Drive crossed it at an angle. And in addition to that, there's a floodplain in the back of the property, which limits the amount of developable property as it is. So those were the findings of fact that allowed for them to build at 5 feet back in whatever the last variance was. So that's just something to think about if you're thinking about either approving or denying, creating a motion. Those are the things that you're looking at.
Then I will make a motion to approve based on those findings of fact and these other findings of fact that, again, the circumstances are unique. And I'll wait for a second.
I second.
Thank you, Fred. So I'll make the motion to approve the dimensional variance for a 5-foot parking lot setback in continuation with the previous 5-foot parking lot setback that was previously approved, given that the fact that they're making the changes to actually make it consistent with the intent of the previous 5-foot setback. Obviously, they're changing the parking lot to remove it from the public right-of-way, the state right-of-way, which is more than their neighbors have done, frankly, considering there's parking in the right-of-way all along Chicago Drive there. So do I think the requested variance will cause a negative impact on the neighbors? Absolutely not. Is it the variance the minimum necessary? Yes, I do believe it is the minimum necessary. I don't believe another setback that would provide similar relief. Is strict compliance due to the, yes, I believe strict compliance to the 10-foot setback would prevent the necessary parking for the intended use of the building. And did they create the floodplain in the back and the topography and the angle of Chicago Drive? No, they did not.
You should be chair. Good job.
Any other discussion on this? I'm not seeing any. I'm going to ask for a vote, please.
All right, the motion is to approve Sorick,
Yes.
Van Antwerp,
Yes.
Vaisaki,
Yes.
Shay,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
and Cusick.
Yes.
Motion to approve passes.
And again, thank you to our applicant for their patience. Going on 3 hours now. So, Next item on our agenda is the approval of minutes from October 22nd. Can I get a motion, please?
I move we approve the minutes.
I'll second.
No discussion?
No discussion?
No
Minutes
discussion?
look good?
Let's read through the minutes, word by one word.
I've read through them silently in my head. I don't see any issues. Thank you very much. And all in favor of approving the minutes of October 22nd, 2020, signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Not hearing any opposed. The approval of the minutes have passed. Our next meeting date is Thursday, February 25th, 2021. One more motion, please, for adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
All right. And support?
Support.
Thank you. Again, all in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much, everyone.
Good night.
Have a great
Great
evening.
Good job, everyone.
Great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. Sleep well.
Overtime.
Be safe.